Hi, welcome back to the show. This is Michael Ellis Show. I'm your host, Michael, and today we've got Dr. Nicolya Williams on the show. And so, how are you, Nicolya?
I'm great. How about yourself? I'm excited to be here.
I'm fantastic, and it's exciting to have you. So, first time we've had a doctor on the show, so this is something exciting. It's something new. So, if you don't mind, could you tell us and the audience who you are and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dr. Nicolya, like he said. I am a girl mom, I'm a believer, and I'm a coach. I'm also a 10-time best-selling author. So a little bit about my journey and how I got here was I unfortunately went through a divorce a few years ago. And while going through that divorce, I joined a small support group and I was a table lead for my support group. And during that season, I was, raising two children, working a full-time job, working a part-time job, and getting my doctorate full time. And so the women would always ask me, like, how are you balancing all of these things? So I came up with this bright idea that I would write like a small ebook and distribute it to the women at my table. There was about 4 to 6 women, depending on the week. But after I started putting like my blood, sweat, and tears figuratively into the book, I was like, you know what? I feel like more people could actually be blessed by this story. So that's when I decided to go ahead and publish my very first book. And then I say from there, everything just kind of expanded. So it's been a very, very fun and beautiful journey for sure.
Awesome. So, what is it you actually help people with? So, you're a coach. So, what do you help people with?
Yeah, so I actually help coaches, other coaches that are looking to expand or grow their brand. So I'm a different coach in the sense that I'm certified in a couple different things. So I'm certified in neurolinguistic programming, emotional freedom tapping, hypnotherapy, and human design, as well as life and success coaching. So I kind of weave all of those modalities to help women create shifts on an energetic and mindset level to then be able to create shifts on the reality level, on the physical plane, using those different tools and modalities. And then also teach women as certified coaches in the same tools to be able to bring that to their audience as well.
Okay. So, you mentioned something about divine there. What did you say again?
Oh,
I
human
just missed
design. Human
human
design.
divine.
Yeah.
What does that mean? This is
Okay.
the first time I've heard of this one.
Yeah, so human design is an awesome tool. It is a very intricate system. It involves like the I Ching, it involves chakras, astrology, and a couple other things. And basically combined, it creates this very comprehensive system that tells you how you're genetically designed to operate in the world. So a lot of people will compare human design to personality tests. I personally think that human design is so different than a personality test because personality tests tell you who you are conditioned to be based on different experiences and things like that. Human design tells you who you're designed to be and how you're energetically supposed to operate in the world. So human design is stamped right before your birth, about 88 days before your birth, and then again stamped the moment that you're born, and that tells who you are. It's so transformative. I definitely recommend like looking it up or connecting with me on Instagram. I have a couple things on Instagram about it, if you want to learn more about human design because it's amazing.
So, um, so that's sort of like the idea that you are born to be a certain way. You're born to be a certain person,
Mhm.
and then over time you're conditioned into into something else. Is that where you're
You're
coming from?
exactly right. I mean, think about it. Society tells us how we're supposed to be. Like, I don't know. I even think about like busyness. Busy. We walk around and we wear busyness like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm doing this. But really, we're on the brink of burnout and exhausted, right? And unfulfilled, and all the other defeated and all these things. But human design tells you actually how you're supposed to show up. Different types have different energy in different ways. So some people are supposed to be really creative. Some people are supposed to be the active portion. Some people hold the wisdom to give to other people. And the sooner you recognize like your design, the sooner you can align your life with it. So you can get rid of that idea that you have to wear this badge of busyness, like it's amazing, and really create more of a balance and alignment with who you are.
So is that what you help people? Well, help women to go through in terms of creating a balance of who they actually are and who they need to be.
Correct. Because I think that, especially in the day of social media, we're constantly comparing ourselves and our journey to everybody else and what everyone else is doing. And so people always ask me, like, well, how do you find time? I mean, I've written 10 books, and how do you find time to do all these things? I found what works for me, and what works for me doesn't work for everybody. So let's figure out what works for you and how you can weave that into some of the goals and ideas that you have for your life.
So just quickly on that, right?
Yeah.
How have you managed to write 10 books in such a short space of time? Because writing books is extremely difficult. I mean, I've written one book before, and it was an ebook. It was about 30 pages long. It was small, considerably small, and that took me days to complete. I can't imagine writing a full book.
Well,
Natural
first,
book.
congratulations to you with that ebook. That's amazing. That's all. I told you I started there too. My idea
Yeah.
was an ebook, and then I expanded. For me, I'm an avid reader. Last year, I read, I think, 58 books. And hence it wasn't like me physically sitting in a chair and reading all of those books. Some of them were audiobooks and some were actual books. But I read a lot, and I feel like reading informs my writing. And then a lot of times I get ideas, and sometimes my brain moves quicker than my words or my hands can type. So I'll talk out ideas, and then eventually kind of, it takes a lot to edit, but I'll talk that out and then turn that into something. So I don't talk out my entire book from beginning to end, but I might talk out a chapter or two that I feel really like lit up or drawn to, and kind of process and talk those out. I also don't really put deadlines on my book writing, and I think that lets me be more in a creative space to write when I feel led. And then the last thing I do is really, I probably say controversial, like most people wouldn't say this is how to write a book, but I write where I feel most led. So I don't write a book from beginning to end. If I'm writing a book in chapter 3, like I'll have kind of an outline. And if chapter 3 really lights me up, and I'm like, yes, I got it. I'm going to talk about chapter 3 first. I notice for me, once you turn the faucet on, the water flows. Once you turn the writing on, the writing continues to flow. The creativity continues to flow. So I find that when I lean into the chapter that I feel lit up about, that I keep going because I'm in that creative space. I have my creative juices flowing, and then I end up writing more than I originally planned because I'm already kind of in that flow.
Understood. Yeah, understood. When I work with people, I work with a lot with productivity, and I basically state that, like, when you're in the flow of doing certain things, to continue doing them, and you'll produce more. Generally, with content writing, if you're in the flow, then you might as well produce a lot of content beforehand, before actually publishing it. So then it's there, ready to go, and you're not feeling like you are struggling to get it out there. Same sort of similar system.
Oh, very similar. And I actually use that in my business too. If I'm batch recording, this morning, I batch recorded a few YouTube videos, but I did 4 videos, and I was already dressed and ready, and I got it all done at once instead of trying to, space it out. Or if I'm writing out my blogs, like I'm going to write out a couple blogs in the same sitting. And I find that just, again, helps to increase my productivity, because every time you start and stop a task, it takes that extra time to even get in the flow, to even get started. So if you're already in the flow, just allow yourself to keep going.
It's a great productivity hack, and it helps you stay focused and stay centralized on what you need to actually do. So you're a 10 times best-selling author.
Yes, sir.
What are some of your books? What have you wrote your books about?
Yeah, great question. Productivity. So that's a big piece. I do all things personal development. That is like my jam. I'm such a personal development nerd. So all things related to that. So I have written books on perfectionism, like overcoming perfectionism. I've written books on how to be more productive, goal setting, books on how to write books. I have 2 children's books. Those are just things that my daughters and my daughters were inspired to do it. And I was like, okay, well, let's try it together. So yeah, I have books on overcoming fear so that you can go after your goals. So anything really in the personal development realm. But I say no matter what book it is, there is some productivity component to it.
Awesome. So you like the productivity queen. um, so you mentioned then overcoming perfectionism. How do you overcome perfectionism? That is something that's a lot of people struggle with.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. And I'm going to be honest, I call myself a recovering perfectionist, but anyone who knows when you're recovering from something, it's not a one and done. Like you're not just
No.
done overnight. It's something you have to constantly do. And I see that show up in a lot of different ways, like in my business, I see it show up in my personal life. So the first step to really overcoming perfectionism, and there's many steps, but the first step is to admit that it exists, admit that you're dealing with it, admit that you're struggling with it. And then the second step is to know that there is a different choice, that you get to make a different choice for something different. Those I would say there's so many that I kind of go through. But to sum it up, that's the first choice. I think we as people, we have so much power, but we fall victim to a lot of our experiences, or we fall victim to a lot of our thoughts or a lot of our beliefs, and we don't believe we have power. So in my book, I talk about like how to gain your power back and to work through and overcome that perfectionism. And it's small little steps at a time. So like for me, when I was starting my business, I didn't feel like I could delegate anything to anyone else, because I'm like, oh, what if they mess this up? What if it doesn't go right? What if, and so I had to slowly but surely begin to delegate. So first, I acknowledged that was my perfectionism coming to the surface. Second, I gave myself permission that I have power to step into my power and to choose something different. I choose that support is more important than things being perfect. And then the third step was to do it in small little steps. Like, what is something small that I could delegate to slowly but surely begin to feel comfortable at releasing some of that perfectionism? Even like recently, I just started doing that with my daughters. I've giving them more tasks as they're getting older. I've been um I've been having them like put groceries away. So my pantry is a disaster. When you have little kids put things in the pantry, you can't find anything, nothing's in order. And I found myself like wanting to control it because I'm like, I can't find anything. It's not perfect. I want it to look neat. But I'm like, that's not helping them learn. And then that's making sure I keep that task all the time. And I'd like to delegate that to them, right? I'd like them to learn that. So I had to give myself permission for things not to be okay, give myself permission that it gets to be different, and then give them small little things. So right now they're starting with the pantry. Once they like learn the pantry system, then maybe they can move to the refrigerator or whatever. But just small little slow steps help me to kind of release that anxiety that came with trying to be a perfectionist.
How old are your kids, if you
My
don't
kids
mind
are
me?
12 and 7.
12 and 7.
Mhm.
So the 7-year-old one's starting young, and the 12-year-old.
Yeah, so my 12-year-old, she's actually pretty organized. So she does okay. It's more of my 7-year-old who wants to do it her way, and it's a disaster. And even she gets frustrated. She's like, I can't find my gummy worms. And I'm like, yeah, because you probably put them in the wrong place. But again, it's like learning experience that we're all kind of having together.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. Um, so you have a free training that is write a book in 30 days. How does somebody write a book in 30 days?
Using my training. No, seriously, what I do is I teach you how to, I teach you the 9 steps I took to, the best way to say it is to put myself in a great position to create a book that is marketable. So research says that about 5,000 books are published every single day. And so there's tons of people that are trying to get books out, but they're going about it all wrong. And so I teach you to build like a great foundation and then kind of go forward and begin to write based on that. So I talk a lot about like market research and really understanding what your ideal reader is looking for. I teach you how to structure your book in a way that helps it to flow almost seamlessly to kind of get your writing out and in some level, like some order. And then I teach you how to go about getting your book online in front of people that are ready to take that next step and purchase it. So I will be honest, to write your book in 30 days is a big commitment. But if you are willing to make a temporary sacrifice for a long-term benefit, it's very doable. And what I mean by that is if you're like, all right, I'm going to give up watching 3 hours of Netflix every day and dedicate that time to really diving deep and writing my book, it's extremely feasible. It's extremely possible.
Awesome. So what are some of the long-term benefits of having a book
Oh my
published?
gosh. I could go
Like,
on and on
what?
about.
How has it helped you?
Yeah, I could go on and on about that. I say writing a book is the best kept secret that people don't tell you. Like this stuff is amazing. But for me, when I wrote my very first book, I was able to hit Amazon best-selling author, and that was so exciting. Like I remember that day like yesterday. I was sitting at work and in my coworker's office, and she had just got it painted, and I was telling her about the book, and I got like the alert from a friend of mine saying she saw the like little badge. And I like started screaming and I like asked her to take a picture. It was so exciting. So one, it creates like this like feeling of accomplishment. Right after I was able to hit Amazon bestselling author, I got a ton of people reaching out to me to just ask for support on how to write a book or how to be more productive because my book was on productivity. And from there, I really built a brand. I built an entire brand around my book. In addition to people asking for support, I also got people reaching out wanting to collaborate. So I ended up I had a short-term radio show. I was featured on podcasts galore. I had different speaking engagements before like the pandemic. I mean, it was crazy, but I always say that there was this God took this one little small baby dream and blew it up because I didn't even know what to expect. I just felt like, oh, I could bless a couple people with this idea or this concept. And it literally changed the entire trajectory of my life by writing the book. And then not only that, I probably say one of the biggest benefits is really being a catalyst for shifts and changes in the world. So, because you're only one person and you're in one place, you can only reach so many people. Well, when you write a book, you can reach people anywhere. And most recently, I had a lady in Ghana reach out and thank me for my book, and they had used it as a book study. And she was like raving about it, crying in my DMs and like on a voice memo, talking about it. And so here I am sitting in my like tiny little space on my couch and laying down relaxing, and I'm getting messages like that. So knowing that you're making a difference all the way across the world is so huge. That to me probably would be the best thing is impact. And then also like you increase your income because it becomes a passive source of income. You write your book one time, but you can always make those royalties each and every month because your book always sells even when you're done writing it.
So one key thing to all that is the fact that you hit bestseller mark. But what was the journey like to becoming bestseller? How long did that take?
That's awesome. So, in all transparency, it's a wonderful question, probably one of my favorite. When I wrote my very, very first book, I actually did not hit bestseller. I wrote my first book and it was a total wash. Like my mom bought it, my aunt bought it. I think like a friend bought it. Like I might have had 3 or 4 sales. And then I was like, whoa, it's on Amazon where everyone goes. Like, why am I not selling it? And it was because I didn't really lay that right foundation. So I went back to the drawing board. I took that same book, the same concept. So the mistake that I made with the first book was it was a book on productivity hacks, how to be more productive and how to be more successful. But I felt like everyone could benefit from the hacks that I was sharing. The problem is if you write a book for everyone, you write a book for no one. So if I'm trying to write a book for male CEOs, but also stay-at-home moms, they're going to have different perspectives and approaches. So I can't write for everyone. So when I went back to the drawing board, I really came to understand that there was a lot of fear around that because I didn't want to feel boxed in. I didn't like that idea. But I gave myself permission to be boxed in so that my audience knew I was talking to them. So I changed the title so that the title spoke to exactly who I was speaking to. The very first title was Quick Tips, which is like, what does that even mean? That could be like quick tips for dog walking or quick tips for college students. Like it means nothing. So I changed it to Quick Tips for Busy Women. And so that way women knew the moment they looked at this book, yep, this is for me. And then the cover really spoke to it. So it's a picture of a woman's head with all these things spinning around her head, like a baby carriage and her husband and money and a job. Like there's all these things. And that's like, as women, we balance and juggle a lot of different things. So I wanted my cover to speak to my audience so specifically that the moment they saw it, they knew that it was for them. So when I went back to the drawing board, these are all the things that I did. I also started to really do a lot of the groundwork, talking to my audience, looking at what they needed, getting feedback from them. And so I ensured that once it was time for me to publish, I was sharing these things, like talking about what they needed, why this book was going to support them, why this book was unique. And so when I went back to the drawing board and republished it, it's really interesting. Not a ton of content changed on the inside. A little bit did, but not a ton. It was more so the way in which I went about promoting it, the way in which I changed the cover. So the first time I published, I had my book out maybe 3 or 4 months before I was like, okay, I need to relaunch. I need to do something different. The second time I published, I hit bestseller in the first day. I think it was about 2 hours after I did it. It was like
first
a night
day.
and day shift. Yes. Yep.
Wow.
It was crazy.
And how much how much of a kickstart did you give that? Did you give it any of a kickstart?
I
Or
did do a little preceding. So that was kind of when I told you I was doing some of the market research and talking to my audience. I started to let people know and build up the excitement. I also did like a little bonus. I did a free, what was it? I think it was like a free webinar or a free Q&A. I can't remember, but it was like the first 100 people that bought would get access to this, private session with me. And so that also kind of put the excitement in people. And then also, I think for me, one thing that I did was I really built up like myself as the expert. When you're an author, people are looking at you as the authority, like you need to, what you're talking about. And so there was a lot of fear around that for me. I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, feeling like that fraud. And so then I had to really step into my zone of genius. I talked about that season of my life where I was balancing all these things and how I was able to still get my doctorate and still do, all of these things. So I really positioned myself as an expert. And then when it was time to launch, I feel like I had that good framework. And these are like the things that I talk about in my class, because I think that a lot of people feel like, oh, if I just publish my book, put it on Amazon, it'll already just make sales. But if 5,000 people are publishing every single day, if you're not strategic about how you're getting your book in front of your audience, it'll be on your mom's coffee table and your mom will be the only one with it, right? You want people that need it in their hands. You didn't write the book in vain. So you want to be really strategic. That also comes down to understanding the system of Amazon, like knowing where, because think of Amazon like a bookstore. If someone's walking in a bookstore, they're going to certain sections. They're going to go to the nonfiction section or the fiction section or the personal development or the self-help or the kid section or the teen section. Amazon's kind of like that. And so you also have to know where people are going to be looking for your book at so that you're appropriately putting it there. Without doing that, then it's going to make it difficult for people to actually find it, if that makes sense. So there were just so many other little like bits and pieces that I learned on the Amazon, like on my second time around, that literally changed the entire process. That's honestly why I'm so passionate about doing this, because I know that a lot of people want to write books, but it's not just as easy as writing a book and then slapping it on Amazon. There's a lot of work behind it, but it's so worth it.
yeah, and as I can imagine, it's extremely worth it if you can get it right. But that's the thing that I wanted to touch on, because like you said, there's 5,000 books get published per day on Amazon,
Yes.
and 99% of them flop. 99% of them don't go anywhere. 99% of them don't hit bestseller. In fact, less than 1% will hit bestseller. So I just wanted to bring that out of you and ask how that's happened, and I think you've answered appropriately.
Yeah, and I use that for each of my other books too. Like now that I know the system, that's why it has been easier with each of my subsequent books, because I know the strategy behind it.
So, your books, does your first book, your relaunched book, does that still perform well now, or has it dramatically dropped off?
Yes, which is the best part about it, because I still weave it into a lot of the work that I do. So if I'm talking to somebody, if I'm going to a speaking engagement, I don't always promote every one of my books. So if I'm featured on a podcast and maybe it's about productivity, I might feature that. If I'm on a podcast and it's about healing, I might feature my divorce book. If I'm on a podcast about goal setting, I might feature my goal setting book. If I'm on a podcast about writing a book, I might feature my writing a book, right? So for me, what I like to do is I like to think about how I'm going to promote it. And I continue to talk about it all the time. And then also, because it's correctly categorized on Amazon, people that are looking for support based on these different things, they're just naturally able to find it. So yes, it does perform well. And that, to go back to your question about what has my book done for me, that's a perfect example, because even though that's something that I wrote all the way back in 2000, I wrote in 2016, end of 2016, I relaunched it in 2017. So even though I wrote all the way back in 2016, it's still selling in 2021, almost 5 years later. I'll say 4 years for the new version of it. 4 years later, it's still selling because it's still relevant. And I still talk about it and bring it up in the work that I do.
So you've wrote 10 books in the space of 3 years. I'm guessing you haven't released one this year.
No,
Yeah.
I released 2 journals this year. I did not do books. I did 2 journals. So I did a gratitude journal for kids, and that was something that I started incorporating with my children. And I was like, oh, I want to kind of bring this to more people. I really like how it's shifted things in my household. And then I also wrote a 100-day goal getter guide planner, which is about being consistent with keeping like one track minded with one goal that's super important to you for 100 days and like staying accountable with it. It's a planner for that. So I released both of those the beginning of January, the 1st of January.
So did you throw them up on Amazon as well?
Yes. So in addition to the 10 books that I have 3 planners and 3 journals, and all 16 of my products are on Amazon as well.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
So let's just quickly talk about this free training that you offer, which is write your book in 30 days. And guys, if you're listening at home or watching at home, visit michaelallisonline.com/go/30 days, and that will send you over to the landing page where you can register for that free training. Also, it's in the description and it's in the show notes on the podcast. So what can they expect when they sign up to this free training?
So the moment you sign up, you're going to get like a welcome email along with your workbook, because I go through a lot of steps. And as you can tell, I talk fast. It's not because I'm trying to rush anybody. I just get super excitable. Like I'm super excited. So you'll get a workbook to kind of take notes throughout the training. In the training, you'll learn a little bit about my story, what got me inspired to write a book. But don't worry, it's not one of those trainings I talk about me the whole time. I really want to give you the tools you need. And then I walk you through the 9 steps that I took to be able to write, publish, and prosper off of each of my books. And the cool thing about it is I always say that you're allowing my footprints to become your blueprint. So you don't have to make the same mistakes, have the same setbacks and struggles that I had. You actually get to learn from my mistakes, making your process seamless and, dare I even say, a little bit fun, because it doesn't need to be as overwhelming or complicated, because you're learning from the mistakes I made. And now I coach people full time on this. And so I'm not only have I learned from my own journey, I've been learning from my clients' journeys. And so this is years worth of like learning and setbacks and mistakes and struggles compiled all in one to give you the tools that you need to streamline the process.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So once again, guys, that's michaelallisonline.com/go/30 days. If you're interested, head over there and sign up for the free training. And if you just wanting to find out more about Nicolya, then in the description below or in the show notes, there's a link to her link tree where there's about 10 links on there, isn't there? There's quite a few links on there for them to go. Is there any links to your social media platforms there?
I don't, yes, to my YouTube and my podcast there is, but you can find me on social media across the board at Nicolya Williams. So I'm Nicolya Williams on Facebook, Nicolya Williams on Instagram, and Clubhouse is new. I'm Dr. Nicolya on Clubhouse, and I host a mindset talk every single Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's where you can kind of find me on social, and I'd love to connect with you all on social.
That's amazing. So just quickly, how are you finding Clubhouse? Is it good? Is it great? Is it bad?
I love Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is a great opportunity to learn from experts. But like for me, for example, when I have 2 kids, so there's times where I can't always like be in front of a camera and not worried about my kids like jumping in or asking for a favor or anything like that. So Clubhouse is perfect. Like the other day, my daughter was laying next to me listening to her iPad, but I was on Clubhouse still hosting an entire talk without feeling like I had to get like super dressed up or fancy, but still could talk. I've connected with amazing people. I've been in other rooms with people that have a ton of like expertise and great things to share. The one thing I will say with Clubhouse is you'll want to set a boundary, because you can get pinged all day and you'll feel like you need to be in every single room. So set a boundary around maybe the time that you're going to join, set a boundary around maybe different topics you're going to join. That way you don't get over like whelmed with it. But I feel like Clubhouse is really going to blow up. It's almost like a live podcast, which is so fun to just kind of be in that energy.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's been great chatting to you today. And like I said, guys, visit michaelelisonline.com/go/30 days to head over and sign up for the free training. If there's one question that I haven't asked you that I should have asked you, what would that be? And what would the answer be?
What is my favorite downtime activity? And that is watching The Office. I like stuff that's super funny, super mindless, and silly. So I guess that would probably be it. Like a lot of people think, because they think that, oh, while you read and you write and you do all this thing, like, do you ever have like downtime or fun time? And I do. I absolutely love The Office. And that is like, if I can sit and watch reruns of The Office, I'd probably do it all day. I have to put a boundary around that. But I seriously love it. So yeah.
That's awesome. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you guys for watching at home. Thank you for listening at home, and we'll see you on the next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.